Greetings and welcome to the Savage Troll screencast Introduction to MapTool. MapTool is a very interesting application. It's written in Java and thus cross-platform. It can run equally well on a Linux operating system, a Windows operating system, or a OS X Macintosh operating system with equal ease, and run the same way on every operating system. You can launch MapTool one of several ways. You can go to the Savage Troll blog zine and launch it under the Important Links section. You can also go to rptools.net to the Launch tab and click on either the release or development versions. That will then start the application. The other way is to go to the Downloads tab of rptools.net and click on the zip file in order to download for either a Linux operating system or a Windows operating system, or click on the DMG file for a Mac OS X operating system. So I'm going to go ahead and launch MapTool, and yes, it's just that easy. Since this is a Java program, you'll see the Java console appear over in the corner. If there had been an update to the version that I had selected, you would see files downloading. It'll download the part it needs to keep up to date. So this is MapTool in its default state. If you run it for the first time, this is what you'll see. I'm going to close a few of these windows because we aren't going to use them for the purposes of this screencast. Those all have to do with macros. We'll discuss that later. The areas we'll be discussing today are the resource library, which can encompass these two windows, the map explorer here, and the chat window. Now MapTool does much more than just maps, but that's our primary purpose for being here today, and so we'll start with maps. Note the layers dialog over here. You have 4 layers in which to place things: the background layer, the object layer, the hidden layer, and the token layer. These stack one on top of the other, so something placed on the background layer will be overridden by something on the object layer, and likewise on the hidden and token layer. So tokens will appear above everything else. Hidden layer comes next, which is a GM only layer, then objects, then background. So I'm going to place a map down, so I'm going to pull in it from the image or the resource library over here. So the image comes on, and it comes in at native size. In other words, whatever the image is drawn out on your operating system is how it's going to come out here. You can then drag the image around with your mouse. Just left click and drag. You can zoom out and zoom in using the mouse wheel. Pulling the mouse wheel back towards you zooms out. Pushing it away from you zooms in. Drag. Now you can also pan the map around by right click and dragging. So this isn't dragging the image, this is actually dragging the map around. So that's a right click drag. Alright. So the next thing after you drop a map onto MapTool you're going to want to do is adjust the grid size to match the map. And after a while you're going to learn how to import maps, and you're going to know the grid size you need. In the case of one that you find online or someone's given you, or that you purchased from an online dealer, you'll have to do a little bit of discovery. You can do that one of two ways. You can bring it into an image manipulation program like GIMP, or you can do it directly in MapTool. So what we'll do is go to Map and say Adjust Grid, and you'll see the MapTool grid come up. Now I'm going to turn this white so we can see it a little better. Now you'll see it doesn't match the grid, so let's pull the corner over to here, and that's just left click drag. You see the grid does not match up with the grid here. So now we get to play with this grid size element up here in the corner and bring it down to something approximating what we think it might be. In this case the grid seems to be 40. Now grid size is important because when you drop a token for the first time onto the screen, it's going to be constrained to one grid. Close this up, map, and then show grid to keep it up. So if I drop a token or anything else on there up on the token layer, it's going to be that size. So let's drop a card down. See, it's just that size. Whereas if I drop something, objects and backgrounds aren't constrained that way. They'll come in at native size. All right. So, that being done, we've adjusted the grid. We're happy with the size. The next thing we're going to discuss is tokens. Let's go down here. This is the default folder. Go down to tokens. You'll note here you've got what we call top-down tokens, which is as you would see something when looking down, and then portrait tokens, which are these. So if I drop a portrait token down, oops, dropped it on the wrong layer. I can select PC or NPC. We'll select NPC for now. I'll describe why that's important in a minute. And you're able to see that it's constrained to one square. You have the ability to change the size of a token if you choose, to make it larger, to fill more squares, to make it smaller, to fill less, and delete it. That's just the delete key I'm tapping to get rid of it. Now you see these special little symbols down here? These are RP tokens. That means these are tokens that have been manipulated and saved from map file or from MapTool and filed away. So if I drag a dragon into this room, note he comes in at a larger size because at some point in the past someone has saved that as a larger token. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, just pulling the mouse wheel towards me. Go back a little bit more. So there's our dragon in the pool room. Let's bring in some trolls that are also RP tokes, make them NPCs as well. Note there he's at a larger size as well. Now tokens you can do several things with, one of which is copy and paste. By just hitting Control C to copy the selected token, you can then move them around and move your mouse pointer around and drop new versions of that same token onto the map. What I'm doing here is just dragging the token around using the mouse. So you have several different ways to move tokens. You can use the mouse as you just saw. I can also use the arrow key. If I push the down arrow key, he's going to move forward to the side. And note that the distance the troll has traveled is down there below the troll image as he moves. The other thing I can do is set waypoints. So if the troll moves here and I want him to go around a corner, I can hit the space bar to set a waypoint, and then he continues moving. And then you do D to drop. Okay. There's several other keyboard shortcuts you can use. You can use a T to cycle through the visible tokens on the map. So once something is selected, then you can just move it. And D for drop. Okay, so that's dropping tokens on the map and moving them around. The other thing you can do is adjust a token's facing. So if I had my troll here and you wanted him to actually face another direction, you can hit the Shift key and he will turn 90 degrees. If you need a finer amount of facing control, you can actually just do that. This is Control Shift and spin the mouse wheel. The other, hit Shift and spin the mouse wheel, and you see him spin. Okay, so I've laid down NPCs up to this point. Let's bring some of our heroes into the battle. So I'm going to bring an elf. At this point I'm going to select PC for a player character. I'm going to bring a hero as a PC and a mage as a PC. Alright, so you see right now the map looks a little bit dark. That's because Fog of War is enabled. If I go up to Map and do Control W or just unclick the Fog of War, it gets much brighter. So when Fog of War is enabled and you see that shading on there, the players can see nothing that is under that shadowy area. Now MapTool excels at something called light and sight, which means you can give your character sight different kinds of sight. I'll give you a little preview here. If you edit the token and go to config, you can choose all sorts of light such as dark vision, low light vision, square vision, conic vision, all sorts of things. We'll give our elf low light vision. Hit OK. So now when light inside it is enabled, light sources will be visible to players and they'll be able to use them to see. The problem is they would see through everything since this is just an image. So you lay down something called vision blocking to keep them from seeing through things. We'll discuss that in our next screencast. But for now, we'll go old school, which is the way that MapTool used to work. You had to remove Fog of War manually. It was the DM's job to remove it. So I'll show you how that's done in case you don't have time to set up light and sight. Right now, Fog of War is enabled. So you go up here to the Fog key. See Fog of War tools? Then in this case, because I have an odd area to expose, I'm going to do Polygon. Now, it's common in MapTool to start something with the left click, and then if you wish to continue the polygon, you right click, right click, right click, right click, right click, right click, and then go back to left click. Alright, so the area that's now brighter is what the players could actually see. Now the way I test that is I go to View, Show as Player. If I were actually connected to your MapTool server, this is what I would see if I were a player character. I wouldn't see the building itself, I would just see the area that you've exposed. Under Fog of War, you have a number of things you can do. You can do Square, which is what in most rectangular rooms you would use something like this. Also do Circular if you wish, which makes an oval, and so forth and so on. To put Fog of War back, you hit Shift key and draw. You see the lines turned white, and it puts the Fog of War back in place. Okay. So that's the basics of Fog of War. Let's go back to GM's view. There's another few tools we'll discuss today. One of them is the drawing tool. Brings up a drawing palette over here. Allows you to select your fill color and your outline color. So I can draw things on the map if I choose. Draw freehand, straight lines, rectangles. We'll do a rectangle. And you see it has a black outline along with a red interior. Undo drawing to get rid of it, or redo it to put it back, or to clear all drawings if you choose. The other thing is template tool. If you have a blast template or something that you're interested in working with, you can draw templates like this. So we'll choose a standard blast template, put it down, grow it however we choose, and there's a blast template. So let's just say they just got struck by a fireball, something like that. Undo those. The other tool under the pointer tool is measurement tool. You'll use this a lot. It allows you to select an area and draw the distance from one to the other. And you see the distance on the screen. Now let's say that 5 is not what you want each cell to represent. Let's say, like with Savage Worlds, often we use 1. How do you do that? Well, you go in and you edit map. And this allows you to select the distance per cell to be whatever you want. Pixels per cell we set earlier when we adjusted the grid, and your default vision distance. You can do things like change the background if you wish. So let's set that to 1. Let's go to our background, go to a texture, find the texture that we're interested in. Let's make it a cobblestone. Say OK. The background changed to cobblestones. And if we're on Measure Tool, you see now I can count how many squares it is from one person to the other. Okay. In our next screencast, we'll be discussing light and sight and how to set those up on your map. So for now, I hope you can download MapTool, play with it for a bit, and hope you'll like it as much as we do here at the Savage Troll. Good luck and good gaming.